Joining us now to talk about this is Sally Pipes, president of the Pacific Research Institute. Welcome back, Sally.
Oh, thank you, Steve, for having me back.
Well,
it was an amazing thing. I was absolutely stunned.
I was stunned as well. I was so stunned. But so talk about, first of all, before we talk about why this might have happened, talk about what this means, what this does, what this doesn't do, what it means.
Well, you know, one of the major provisions of the Affordable Care Act, which celebrated its third anniversary on March 23rd, is the employer mandate, which, as you know, was to come into effect on January 1st, 2014. Any employer who did not offer health insurance or didn't meet certain conditions would pay a fine to the government of $2,000 or $3,000 per employee, so that the individuals could purchase insurance in the exchanges. And I guess there's been a lot of business leaders and the chamber people going and saying to the administration, you know, we just cannot, you know, get this operational by January 1st. So yesterday afternoon, first it came out as a blog from the Treasury Department, and then Nancy Ann DeParle confirmed that they had decided to postpone the implementation of the employer mandate until January 1st, 2015. So there's a lot of talk going on. We don't really know, but I think, you know, for those of us who are for repeal and replace, I think this gives the Republican Party a lot of hope to rebuild the impetus for, you know, getting out and making an issue about if you know, they can't get the employer mandate organized. The individual mandate is another thing that I would like to see postponed and eventually repealed. And then, of course, there's the whole issue of the exchanges. 27 states have said that they are not going to operate their own exchanges, and they've left it to the federal government. Another 7 are going to be partnerships. And I just don't see, you know, as Max Baca said at a hearing in front of
the train wreck is coming, right?
The train wreck is coming, and
yeah.
I think, you know, we're going to see a train wreck also coming on the exchanges. So this could really be the beginning of the end for the president's, you know, signature initiative.
All right. Well, now here comes the question, Sally. In your view, did the president do this to allay the concerns of businesses, you know, small/large businesses, in other words, 50 employees or just about 50, and those larger, some of whom were saying that they're going to fire employees to get down under the 50 threshold so they wouldn't have to be under this mandate, et cetera, to give them another year to figure out or to work with them and to see if they can ease the pain, so to speak, or... And therefore, it represents a huge problem in the implementation of Obamacare, and we could hope, as you alluded to, that there will be other provisions to follow. Or is this purely political in nature because it is such a train wreck that Obama has no intentions of sidetracking anything? He just wanted to, you know, he sees political advantage in postponing this until after the midterm elections. So he feels, and a lot of analysts have agreed since yesterday, that this takes away a major theme of the Republicans. I disagree. I still think that they can point to this and say, see, we got to stop it, elect us. But many people think Obama did it for political reasons only. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think, Steve, you're absolutely right. I mean, Obama is very political. And when you look back to the signing of the Affordable Care Act and how things were staged, the main cost drivers, the employer mandate, the individual mandate, the Medicaid expansion, the subsidies, the exchanges, not one of those things was going to come into effect until 2014 because he knew he had to fight the 2012 election. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if he isn't doing this as a political issue for the midterm elections. I think that it could very well backfire on him, as I say, and I think it really gives the Republican Party a lot of new oomph in order to, you know, talk repeal and replace. So I think it is probably political because he wants the Democrats to keep the Senate and maybe gain some ground in the House. So
well, that would be the end of the United States as we know it for certain, but because there'll be no stopping him legislatively if that were the case. But I think you're right. But here's what gets, and I think I agree with you also that it gives the Republicans, it will backfire politically speaking if his goal is to take away an issue from the Republicans in for the midterm elections. It might prevent some horror stories from being talked about because they wouldn't have happened yet. But it's a great issue. Saying, see, Obama was afraid to let it happen before the elections. Don't let it happen. Let's stop it, blah, blah, blah. I think it gives them a great rallying point. But let me ask you this. Don't the Republicans in the House already have the ability to say, for instance, no to the funding of the IRS role in this? Don't they hold the purse strings? I know they've passed legislation in the House that will never see the light of day in this Senate that says repeal Obamacare, but don't they, in fact, can't they control parts or provisions, like including the ones I've alluded to, and stop them by not funding them?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the House has voted 37 times, Steve, to repeal the whole legislation.
Yeah, but that's not going to go anywhere. But if they vote not to approve funding, then that funding doesn't get approved.
Right, exactly. And I wonder, I mean, not being in Washington, not being a fly on the wall, I just wonder why the Republicans haven't done more of this on, defunding of the Medicaid expansion, defunding of that, the subsidies come in at 400% of the federal poverty level. And so between 133 and 400%, even in Massachusetts, so only 300%. So these are some of the things they could do. I just wonder, are they a bit frightened to take this on? Because they shouldn't. These are things that can happen, and there can also, be further votes to repeal something like the medical device tax, the 2.3% tax that came into effect January 1st of this year. And there's a lot of Democratic support for that too, and it is passed. So, I mean, a number of things can be done, but I think I've talked a lot about defunding, these things, but why are the Republicans, it seems to me, afraid to bring this up? Because they do have the power to do that.
I don't know. I mean, here you have a situation where the polls, if that's how John Boehner and the leadership governs, and I hope it's not, but I fear it is in the case of the leadership, the polls show overwhelming support for everything you and I have talked about on issues like abortion and right to life and marriage and whatnot, where the polls aren't as clear cut, or maybe they're on the losing end of the polls. Even then, I think they're running away from a fight that could win by pointing out the radical nature of the other side, but they run from that. I can't imagine, though, like you say, why they're running from this, why they don't have the courage, since they keep passing repeal of the bill, which they know isn't going to happen with the current makeup of the Senate and the White House. Then do something that you can do. That's what I don't understand.
Start the ball rolling. If they have to, as I said earlier, if they decide to delay the individual mandate, the administration, if they decide to postpone the exchanges because of the 27 they're going to be operating, I just don't see how they can get that. This really gives the Republican Party a rallying cry to get around and start. Still today, 55% of Americans would like to see this legislation repealed. 42% think it's already been repealed.
Right.
But I think that we need to get the battle back on the front pages of people's minds, because during the campaign last fall, Romney didn't seem to want to touch health care because of his own Romney campaign.
Right.
He want to back away from it, and so the air went out of that bubble. But I think we have something to be able to start building up again. In 2014, November, is not really that far off when it comes to major issues like healthcare reform.
It is not that far off, and again, it's just I think. See, it surprises me. I could see a national candidate screwing it up the way Romney and McCain did, as I think they screwed up issue after issue. But the Republicans win in their districts by being very, very vociferous against the health care bill. And if they would take action, I think it would only solidify that. So I'm confused, and hopefully between now and the next few weeks or months, when everybody gets back, I could put the question to some people in the Republican Party in the House and say, why aren't you doing anything? I just don't get it. And if you find out, Sally, before I found out, you tell me.
Yes, I certainly will. Yeah, it's an interesting, but it certainly caught me by surprise. Yesterday afternoon.
Yes, me too. It really did. But all in all, it's a good thing. But because this problem can't be solved, I mean, there's no way around it. Employers know what they have to do. If they can afford it, they'll afford it. And pass the cost on to us. If they can't, they'll lay people off or not hire full time or whatever the solution. But it's not good. There's not going to be a magical solution given the current regulation requirements, whether you wait a year or 2 years or 10 years. It's just not going to work that way.
Right, and I have a new book coming out next week called The Cure for Obamacare from Encounter Books. It's a broadside, and I think the timing is perfect because it has a whole replacement agenda. And the Democrats keep telling the Republicans, well, you don't have a plan, you don't have a plan.
Right.
Well, we do have a plan, and they need to step up to the plate and back a plan.
I couldn't agree more, Sally. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great 4th. Keep up the fight, and we'll speak again very soon, I'm sure.